Hello, my name is Maria Bezubova, and you're at my channel, Fertilizers Jazz. Here we talk about events, trends, technologies in the world of fertilizer and agriculture. Please subscribe to the channel, put like to this video, and let's jazz. Today I'm very glad to host a super interesting guest, Georgi Borisov, who is Commercial Director of Agropolychim, Bulgarian producer of nitrogen and phosphate fertilizers. I am delighted to welcome you, Georgi, and thank you very much for joining me today.
Hello, Maria. Hello, all. Thank you for the invitation, and I hope we can have a very nice and productive conversation together.
Thank you again. Yes. I'm very excited to have this opportunity and to discuss with you the state of fertilizers market in Europe, and maybe more specifically in the Black Sea region, where we both let's say belong, and also your understanding of current challenges that European fertilizers industry and producers specifically are facing. So first of all, let me start with the hottest topic of last week, which turned upside down the whole fertilizers, let's say, world with this urea rally. And my first question is, how do you think this turmoil influenced in general European market? And will it have any influence further? Because we see that the drama behind the Egyptian production is starting to, let's say, dissolve.
So if we start chronologically, the problems started, and the rally in general started in Egypt even before the IFA conference in Singapore, where some of the European companies decided, or the companies sold to Europe, decided to cover their shorts in urea. And when they saw that the rally is starting, many companies decided to cover their shorts. And this started on very slight but very sustainable rally into the urea. Then in the IFA conference, there were many discussions in Singapore. How sustainable is this? What is going to happen with the urea prices? But mainly also that urea rally, or the start of the rally, influenced also the phosphate market. So everybody saw that the shorts are not sustainable. So a lot of big markets like the States, like Brazil, also Europe, started buying not only urea but also phosphates. And this somehow turned into a very sustainable trend, not only in urea but also on the phosphate fertilizers, which is continuing even now. The cherry on the cake were the problems which Egypt faced with the natural gas supply, which of course influenced a lot on the urea output. The problems last week started to dissolve, but recently, maybe a couple of hours ago, came new information that the problems are persisting, and there is a possibility that the production will not be fully restored, which can only come as a further pressure on the market prices in terms of increasing, because there were some indication that the prices can cool down a bit after the resolving of the problem of natural gas of last week. There were some sales done, let's say, a bit emergency, because the companies which were having the positions were trying to, let's say, have the margin of the increasing prices. But now the situation is a bit different, and if you enter the market now, there is no pressure, and most likely also most company will not be willing to sell, as they cannot cover as cheap as they are selling at the moment. So to make it short, with the new information which is from today, and maybe in the let's say, backdoors are saying that maybe new India tender is coming. So there is this possibility that the prices will start picking up again.
I see. And in general, how do you see the demand in Europe for nitrogen and phosphates? Because during first 2 quarters, it was registered as, let's say, quite weak versus years ago. So how do we foresee it for the rest of the year, for the Q3 and Q4, and how this uptick in prices might influence it?
Spring demand was a nightmare. Bulgaria, Romania, Balkans, but also Central and West Europe. Nitrogen, depending on the sources and on the evaluation of the market, was cut by 30 to 40%, depending on the region, which is huge decrease of the application rates for the farmers. Phosphates, the numbers are even more serious. The talks are about 60-70% of the cuts of application, which is major. It's unprecedented in the new history of Europe. And everything was in combination with uncertainty of grain prices, of grain trade in general of the Black Sea region, in combination, especially in European Union, of the new Green Deals of the EU Commission, which are putting a lot of pressure into all the EU farmers of only playing defensive, which means they consider, let's cut the costs as much as possible, hope for a nice weather, which they had plenty of rain on time during a sustainable period of time, and hopefully with all the regulation and the prices will pick up, which they did. They will be positive in June, July. We have started harvesting here in Bulgaria region. The first numbers are promising on the yield. If the yield is confirmed like this in whole Bulgaria, Romania also, and if the prices remain stable at least, then I do hope, and most of the traders, fertilizer traders, hope the same, that the Q3 mainly will be a very positive one, because first, there is not much of a product on the market, which will put some pressure for the people who wants to buy, not to wait for the very last minute as the last 2 to 3 years. Number one, and number two, they'll have the liquidity. They'll be, let's say, positive to sell the grain. And with this, will be a fresh liquidity on the market, which will, let's say, put us in a more sustainable, more known position, not like in the last 3 years, which will give the whole chain from importers, distributors, producers, and farmers more predictable, more sustainable commercial area of their influence. And in this area, they will be more willing to, let's say, to invest in fertilizers, so they have another successful year.
Right. Let's hope that agricultural fundamentals will support all of us. Obviously, Agropolychim, being the largest producer of the region, playing both in nitrogen and in phosphate segments, you as a producer face all those challenges that fertilizer producer only can face. So the main challenges for every producer is, of course, the raw materials cost. And for nitrogen, obviously, natural gas price is the one parameter is that you need to follow very closely. As we see now, the cost in Dutch TTF is around 34 euros per megawatt hour, which is significantly higher, let's say, versus what we had for quite a long period of time before 2022, when Russia invaded Ukraine. And since then, the values are only increasing. So the other uncertainty factor, which I see for the next year, is the suspension of gas transit contract between Russia and Ukraine, the gas that is flowing to Europe. So nobody really can predict how fiercely it will influence the whole industry. So what is your view as a large producer upon that? How significant will be that influence, and which are the challenges you see for the, let's say, short term and maybe a bit of midterm future?
Very, let's say, wide topic with a lot of uncertainty, with a lot of unknown parameters which can influence the situation. So let's separate the problems or the analysis in three categories. So natural gas, no question, is one of the major. It will influence and it will affect all the producers which have, let's say, in-house ammonia production through natural gas. Then we go on the second category, which is totally the ammonia importers, which do not use the natural gas as a source, but import the ammonia. And then we go on the third category, which is very, very major, which are various other costs different than ammonia and natural gas. Two major things to mention here. Number one is, of course, the increasing labor cost in Europe. And number two, even more important, is the upcoming CBAM and the Green Blue Deal in general. So if we go on the first topic, which is natural gas, there are many factors which are putting pressure on the price on the increasing side. Of course, the transit, which is the new EU policy now of Russian gas. They are trying also to decrease the gas which is coming through all the terminals via vessels. But we saw that even with the restrictions which Europe put, Russia is still closely number one, or together with the States, number one supplier of gas in Europe. And there are not major turmoil on let's say supply side, on quantity side. Yes, the prices are higher, true. They will remain high for many reasons. They will remain high, at least until the political situation is like this. And they are high in spite of the warm temperatures. The winters are not the same as before, but still the prices remain pretty much high for, let's say, the levels of fertilizers which are internationally. This is putting a lot of pressure in all European producers when it comes in terms of being competitive for export, not for the local market. On the second topic, which is the ammonia, we see quite stable market for the last 7-8 months, maybe, with some small volatility, but nothing major. There were times in the last months where ammonia was significantly cheaper than natural gas produced ammonia in Europe. Then in the period November till maybe February, it was more expensive, significantly more expensive to import ammonia than to produce with natural gas for many reasons. Mainly, but not exclusively, the situation in Red Sea, where the whole Middle East supplying Europe was cut with a knife, and there was very clear differential between, let's say, Mediterranean region with North Africa producer and some North American producers supplying Northwest Europe, also Black Sea, and Middle East going to India. So unless the situation is up a bit, our region will continue paying quite a penny for the ammonia compared to what would have been if Middle East was in the picture. Of course, there are many rumors now about the new Russian terminal for ammonia in Black Sea. It will be a game changer, no matter if any producer likes or doesn't like supplying Russian ammonia. It will influence the prices as minimum as the volume will be new on the market. So on the ammonia is quite interesting also, but the trend is the same for Europe as natural gas. So with the current prices of ammonia in the last 7 to 8 months, it's very hard to be competitive internationally. It's just the prices in Europe are just the highest prices in whole world. So if you are to sell here locally or AU, you can continue being competitive. If you go outside, then you have to find some moments where there is no enough merchandise, or you find a premium market which is willing to pay the extra ammonia costs.
Indeed.
Number three is the same, but with piling effect on the first two. Labor costs are increasing in the last 2 years by 30, 40, 50% in some areas, of course, with all the inflation rates in Europe. But the CBAM and the whole green transition of a European Union is the potential killer of the fertilizer industry as we know it in Europe. So if the CBAM and the quota for CO2 of the local producer continue like proposed by European Union, in 2028, 2029, we'll have something like maybe about 50% of free quotas and 50% CBAM applicable on the ammonia, which will significantly increase the self-cost of all European produced fertilizers. So then we have to split again in two. So if you want to sell in Europe on a high premium price to take the CBAM into the cost, then it will follow with immediate inflation rates, another wave of inflation rate increases in Europe for everyone, because somebody should bear the cost of this green transition. I don't know if this is the bigger or the smaller problem, but the other problem is the export. So first, for example, Agropolychim is exporting about 50% of their merchandise, no matter phosphate, nitrogen. So nobody else than European Union is at the moment willing to pay for green. So Agropolychim will be out of the export market, not only Agropolychim, every AU producer will be out of the export market, paying the CBAM and the highest ammonia prices of all world. So Agropolychim and the other will not be able to export, plain and simple. The other problem is that when you sell 50% AU, let's say to Bulgaria, Bulgaria is producing on wheat something like 5 million tons annually, out of which in Bulgaria and AU are staying about 2 million. So the rest 3 million are going to Saudi, Algeria, Egypt, countries who cannot care less about green transition at the moment. And is competing with Russia, with Ukraine, countries, again, which are not part of the green transition of AU. So how our farmers will be able to compete with Russia and Ukraine for countries who also doesn't want to pay for green and blue? Plain and simple, they cannot. So the whole industry is very, very pessimistic what lies ahead now with the CBAM and with the high ammonia natural gas prices, and how Europe in general will be keeping their competitiveness on export. So I don't think Agropolychim feels it's too dramatic when we predict that in 5 years AU industry and agriculture will be, let's say, very, very in risk of closing doors. So it's a good transition, don't get me wrong. Agropolychim stays 100% of the green initiative and transition of a European Union because everyone sees the climate change. And agriculture is one of the, if not the most sensitive of the climate change. So climate change should be, the climate change fighting should be, but first, AU cannot do it alone. All countries, continents should be on board, or most of them. Number one, and number two, until whole world is on board, European Union should think not only how to do this green transition, but to think about the commercial and industrial companies, how to compete internationally and locally with import products. Otherwise, there will be no countries, no agriculture to do this green transition. Just EU will be high-tech business with banks, etc., but no industry.
Yes, and working inside itself, and it's not possible in our interconnected world anymore. I fully agree with you. Just a small comment from my side. So partially Ukraine is a large producer of grains. Partially it also relates to this green initiative that you were just talking about, because during past 2 years, Agropolychim, specifically your products, took a super high share in our market, which we are very happy about, because our farmers love products of Agropolychim. So let's say indirectly we are also supporting this green initiative, because we are paying the price that that Agropolychim is putting. And which other potentially premium markets, because yes, Ukraine now for European producers definitely is one of those premium markets. Which other premium markets you think are now open for Agropolychim, and maybe will be open even despite this extra pricing that you will have for CBAM?
If we consider only the premium markets, not because we're targeting all the time to see what niche markets are there, for example, where they have the possibility to enter on a cheaper product, but they don't have availability. This is another possibility for us to enter. But if only we have to see the premium markets, we are considering now, for example, markets which are, number one, willing to pay for blue. Like, for example, Australia is a good example. Or markets which are quite small in terms of lots, where the biggest producers are not willing to go on 2, 3, 5,000 tons vessels, like West Africa. West Africa is a good example. Or countries which have politically some problems dealing with some competitive products. Random examples, companies which are not willing to take Russian. There are many of these. And countries like, for example, Algeria, which are not willing to take Moroccan and OCP products because of political reasons. So such markets is what I have in mind, which we are targeting, so we can have the possibility to be competitive. But the market will get less and less, because the difference between buying CBAM product and buying not CBAM product will be a lot bigger. Then those countries will start thinking, okay, I'm willing to pay 20, 30 euro per ton premium just for some reason, whatever, quality, political, whatever. But am I willing to pay 120? So the premium markets will disappear or shrink as much as possible when full extent of CBAM will kick in. And there is place for a European Union and Commission and Parliament to think in this direction if we are to keep EU alive in general. Because I don't know if you followed what happened in February in whole Europe, starting with France, of course, as the biggest agricultural land. So now farmers are paying, what, 5-10% green blue transition, not more. And Europe was burning. Can you imagine full green blue transition of 100%? All roads, all countries will be blocked by agricultural farmers and agricultural technique and everything. So, and no European Commission, no Parliament will be willing to confront 2 million farmers with one of the key agriculture is one of the key sectors. It's key for everyone. No one wants to be like, I don't know, Algeria or Saudi Arabia and have zero agriculture. So we have still the climate, and killing a whole sector like agriculture will be a no-go for whole Europe and the EU in general. So either European Commission will change drastically the policy or the commercial side of the policy with subsidy or whatever, it's their call, or it's very, very likely that more and more countries will decide to step out of the European Union and determine their own policy in order to survive. So I don't see this policy, which is done at the moment by European Union, sustainable and implementing until 2030 without significant changes.
I fully agree with you. And in this respect, when you mentioned those different potential markets that can be still the option for higher priced fertilizers, many of those markets are connected to the shipping with containers, obviously, because small markets, small amounts. And in this respect, what is your view at the current change and significant, let's say, growth in containers cost again? We saw it first after the pandemics, during the pandemics actually, when containers cost hit, what was that, over 10,000 per 40-foot container. Now we're coming close to that again, but we don't have any like significant problems like pandemics at that time. So for specialty products or for high cost products, this is definitely a problem. So do you already feel that, and what is your view on that?
Yes, as everyone participating in the market, especially looking for niche markets, container cost is significant. Now the Red Sea situation is changing almost everything because there are almost no lines going through Gulf of Aden and Red Sea. What we could do, we have done it. So we have targeted, appointed in the logistic department a whole structure dealing only with containers. We are trying to be positioned commercially as close as possible to the containers. Let's say containers parties which are willing to buy containers or goods with containers. But everything else is out of our reach, of course. It's high logistic cost is not helping anyone in general. So what we can do is try to do commercially and logistically what we can do in terms of positioning ourselves with the right partners. Volatility is there, unfortunately. This increase was followed in 2020 with a huge drop of the freights, of course. I personally, I'm in huge favor of letting the market regulate itself, which means at certain moment, if the prices go too high and there are no off-takers of those prices, just it's only logical that the prices will start dropping. So I do believe that the market will regulate itself, and if the market, this is the new reality of the market, then everyone should just adjust. You cannot do much more about it.
I see. Agropolychim a year ago became a pioneer in terms of being the first producer of low carbon footprint product. And obviously we discussed all the problems connected to this new CBAM regulation, but maybe you can please elaborate more about the plans that Agropolychim has in this direction. What is your vision there?
As I said, Agropolychim believes in the green transition. Agropolychim, 2 years now, wants to be one of the pioneers in the European Union about the green transition. But we feel the responsibility as such to approach the subjects which are crucial for this transition. And our opinion that this transition cannot happen like forecasted at the moment and written in the EU. Coming back to the question, in June 2023, we were the first company importing a whole vessel, full cargo of blue ammonia into Europe. Agropolychim further is almost CO2 neutral, I have to say. We're almost CO2 neutral. We are almost natural gas independent because the other source of natural gas, as you know, is for steam production. And since 2018, we have steam production via biomass in Agropolychim. So we are burning about 50,000 tons of straw biomass, which is also CO2 absolutely neutral. So having these two in mind, also we are producing a lot of electricity here in Agropolychim. So we are almost self-sufficient in terms of CO2. So Agropolychim wants to be sustainable, see that the need of being sustainable. So in 2023, having all this in mind, we have put into the market the first blue label ammonium nitrate, a real label for CO2 reduced ammonium nitrate with CO2 reduced, let's say, footprint ammonium nitrate, about 50,000 tons. We placed it in many directions: France, Romania, Bulgaria, Ukraine a bit. And the idea was to show that we want to be one of the pioneers. Further, we have extended our talks now for 2024 for another one food delivery. I hope it will be there in October. Bear with us a bit more to be able to finalize this one food delivery for another lot of 50,000 tons of blue. And since then, we are in talks, in very intensive talks with a lot of companies which are doing full new investments, mainly in the States, for 98% CO2 captured ammonia, mainly in the States from 2027, 2028, with the idea that Agropolychim wants to have some offtake agreements with these companies so we can compete and import blue ammonia into EU on a regular basis. First, to be able to keep our competitiveness, but also to keep the competitiveness of our partners. But whatever efforts we do, we have to face the truth that no matter what we buy, gray plus CBAM or blue with decreased CBAM, the cost will be there, it will be increased, and everyone in the line should bear the cost. And like this, Agropolychim is taking all steps which are possible in the moment as we talk to make the impact milder, but we cannot take the impact at all out of the equation. And in this regard, we are trying to revamp nitric acid production, steam production, and be able from 2027 to import huge quantities of blue ammonia. So those are the steps Agropolychim did in order for us to be, let's say, one of the pioneers and one of the most sustainable companies in Europe on the fertilizer market. But it's not enough. We should state it's not enough. We did, and we are doing everything possible what we can do commercially, and we are doing also investment-wise. But as I said, policy change
of the whole regulation, yes, that needs.
We cannot change the regulation. We can only make it milder.
Indeed, indeed. And I wish you all the success in this way. And thank you very much for joining me today. It was a super insightful discussion. So I wish you personally and Agropolychim in general a lot of success and great business, develop as planned and beyond. And of course, I will be more than happy to see you again here in Fertilizers Jazz. Thank you again, Georgi.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you. It was a pleasure for me, and hope to keep in touch and meet again.
Sure. Thank you, Georgi. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, put like to this video, push the bell in order not to miss any updates, and see you soon.